Food spoilage and food storage. Introduction to the module. In this module, we will learn the best ways to preserve food, how to spot and prevent spoilage, and drill down into the main methods of preserving foods, some of which have been with us from time immemorial. We will also cover your obligations under the law in performing these duties and when freezing and defrosting food. Lastly, we will see the relevance of sell-by and use-by dates on food and what they mean. Topics to be covered in this module are spoilage, preservation, recognizing spoiled food, common signs of spoilage, organoleptic checks, sense check, preventing spoilage, food preservation methods, frozen storage, freezing and defrosting, refrigeration and temperatures, dry food storage, food distribution and deliveries, food labeling and storage, use by and best before dates. Spoilage. Food spoilage is the primary cause of wasted food in food businesses and wider society, as well as the most significant source of food poisoning. Therefore, it is in everyone's interests to ensure that food is prevented from spoiling and not served or sold to unsuspecting members of the public. According to FairShare, about 1.9 million tons of food is wasted every year by the food industry, half of which is believed to have been avoidable. The Anti-Food Waste Campaign Group, RAP, claims that 21% of this waste comes from food spoilage, with another 45% from food preparation and 34% uneaten by food business customers. Clearly, spoilage makes up a significant part of this, and much of it can be prevented. Food spoilage is caused mostly by bacteria, molds, and yeasts. There are 6 main methods of preventing these organisms from spoiling your foods and making them inedible or even dangerous. Store food at the correct temperature at all times. Ensure that all food packaging is appropriate, intact, and undamaged. Handle food carefully and hygienically. Maintain good personal cleanliness and hygiene. Keep a clean workplace. Control pests such as pigeons, cockroaches, ants, rats, and mice. Recognizing spoiled food. Common signs of spoilage. There are different ways to tell if food has gone off. The 10 most common ways are the presence of slime. An unnatural slimy texture or sheen over meat or vegetables is a sure sign of spoilage. Mold. A fuzz or powder appears on food after fungal spores have settled on it. Parts of moldy bread can be carefully cut off, but any mold on meat, dairy products, or vegetables means that they are inedible. Discoloration. While some foods change color on exposure to the air, for example, avocados, other foods such as vegetables and meats should be trashed if discolored, especially if there is slime present. Bad smells. Sniffing food can usually reveal if it has begun to go off. If it smells bad, it will almost certainly taste bad, too, and could well be bad for your health. Unusual texture. Fruit and vegetables that become overly soft, mushy, sunken in, wrinkled, or too grainy should probably be thrown away, though they can sometimes be used in baking or jams. Frost damage. Frost on frozen foods can indicate freezer burn, which can make food bad to eat in even mild cases. Damaged packaging. This can be a problem in both frozen and fresh foods, causing bacteria or mold to enter, or causing food to thaw, and sometimes refreeze, causing a poor texture. Floating eggs. A simple test to see if eggs have gone bad is to place them in cold water. If they sink and stay sunk, they're fresh enough to eat. But if they float, sometimes end up, they are producing gases as an effect of spoilage and should be thrown away. Dents or bulges in tins. Defects in food cans are often indicated by bulging, areas of rust around dents and bends, broken lid seals or leaks, All of these should be taken seriously because spoiled canned food is a source of botulism, a potential killer. Bubbles in jars. Signs of gas in jarred food are a telltale sign of spoilage, as is corrosion under or at the edge of a lid. Strong seafood smell. All seafood smells a little fishy or salty, but a strong version of these smells often indicates spoilage. Anchovies and fish sauce can be exceptions. Organoleptic checks, aka sense checks. Despite our current technological advancement, food manufacturers and businesses still use sense or organoleptic checks to ensure that food is fresh, tastes as it should, and to make sure that their products are consistent in flavor, texture, and appearance. Such tasting can occur at any stage in the production process, whether the food is raw, being prepared, cooked or finished, in storage or ready to be eaten. There are usually considered to be 4 organoleptic factors which need to be considered during testing. These are smell or scent, flavor or taste, mouthfeel, aka texture, visual appearance or color. Preventing spoilage. The life of preserved foods is not just reliant on the process of preservation, but needs the packaging to be intact and in good condition. Sterile sealed containers such as jars, bottles, and cans are ideal, particularly when the food and the packaging are sterilized separately before being combined. However, once the packaging is opened, all food should be treated as if it were fresh and refrigerated. Constant refrigeration is even essential for smoked, pasteurized, or vacuum-packed foods. All food handlers must store preserved foods properly, know exactly where they should store preserved foods, make sure that spoiled or unfit preserved food is never sold or served to a customer. Food preservation methods. Food preservation prolongs the amount of time in which the food can be safely consumed. It is done best by using specific and well-tried methods to control, restrict, or prevent the reproduction of bacteria. Most methods of preserving food are well known and include pasteurization. This process involves applying high temperatures to food, such as when making ultra-heat treated UHT milk, particularly in bottling, canning, and boiling before the food packaging is finally sealed. Freezing and refrigeration. Low temperatures slow down the growth of most bacteria. Dehydration. Removing moisture which effectively turns a high-risk food into a low-risk food. Salting. Adding salt, sodium chloride to food, which has the effect of drawing moisture out of it by osmosis, making the food unviable for most bacterial growth. Pickling. The fermentation of food in acid, which also inhibits most bacterial growth. Chemical preservation. This is performed by the addition of preservatives such as benzoates, nitrates, and E numbers. Removing oxygen occurs during vacuum packing and prevents the spoiling of food by taking away the environment favored by aerobic bacteria. If you refrigerate the food, then the reproduction of anaerobic bacteria is inhibited and the food's shelf life further extended. Smoking. Wood smoke is an antioxidant and antimicrobial agent, but because it doesn't penetrate far into the food being smoked, it needs to be combined with drying, salting, chilling, or other preservation methods to extend its shelf life. This is particularly useful in oily fish, where the process prevents the oils and fats from going rancid. Frozen storage. Freezing is the most common way of ensuring that food can be kept for long periods of time without spoiling. However, it comes with its own set of necessary procedures and dangers, most of which are associated with maintaining correct temperatures. The temperatures of freezers used in food businesses should be maintained at between -18 degrees Celsius and -22 degrees Celsius to inhibit bacterial and fungal growth. However, freezing only makes spores and bacteria lie dormant, and the slight cellular damage that some food undergoes when being frozen can actually make it spoil more quickly when it is thawed. Such recently defrosted food should be treated as fresh and be consumed or cooked immediately. Further freezing temperature facts include fungi, that is, yeasts and molds, are able to grow at -10 degrees Celsius or above. The temperature of any delivery of frozen food should be checked with a commercial thermometer or other appropriate temperature measuring tools. Any frozen food delivery which has a freshly measured temperature above -12 degrees Celsius should be rejected and reported to your manager or supervisor. New frozen food stock should still be placed below or behind your old stock. Never stack frozen food above your freezer's load line. Always abide by the best before and use by dates on the food's packaging. Frozen food storage guidelines. Vegetables and fruit, up to 12 months. Butter and cheese, up to 6 months. Fish, up to 6 months. Meat, up to 12 months. Sausages and bacon, up to 6 months. Offal, up to 6 months. Refrigeration and temperatures. Thawed food must be cooked immediately or put into refrigeration to ensure that bacterial growth is inhibited. The areas used for thawing food should be cleaned and disinfected thoroughly. Food must be reheated only once and then cooked to such a temperature as to ensure that it destroys harmful pathogenic bacteria. Chilled food must be kept at a temperature below 8 degrees Celsius and preferable between 1 degree Celsius and 4 degrees Celsius. Enough refrigeration should be present to safely and hygienically cope with your likely peak production levels. When chilling food in a cabinet, for example, refrigeration temperatures should operate between 1 degree and 4 degrees Celsius at all times, while freezers should safely set at -18 degrees Celsius or below. Chilled food. High-risk food should be stored in refrigerators, refrigeration rooms, or chilled storage units. You are obliged to keep such spaces and units at 8 degrees Celsius or below, and it is generally viewed as good practice to maintain a constant temperature of between 1 degree Celsius and 4 degrees Celsius. Consequently, refrigeration should be made readily available if you stock any high-risk, raw, or ready-to-eat foods in your business premises. Inside your refrigeration units, it is essential that raw food is placed below ready-to-eat food to avoid contamination. Strong-smelling food should be sealed, labeled, and dated to prevent any unpalatable tastes or odors being absorbed. This is disagreeable to the consumer, but not usually dangerous. In the process of refrigerating food, always make sure that you keep enough space in between the different foods to allow air to circulate. Never overload the fridge. Never place any food in front of the cooling unit. Always store vacuum-packed or tins of pasteurized meat in a refrigeration unit. Regularly rotate your stock to use the oldest items first and avoid spoilage. Check use-by dates daily. Immediately discard or remove out-of-date food. Always place new stock behind the old stock to make sure that the old is used first. Place partly used food in sealed non-metallic containers which are labeled with a use-by date of no more than 48 hours after you store it. Always destroy food that has been stored at above 8 degrees Celsius for 4 hours or more. Never store open cans in the refrigeration unit, particularly tinned fruit and tomatoes, which are susceptible to chemical contamination from oxidizing metals. If the temperature of your fridge seems too high, it's probably due to one of 3 reasons. You have overloaded the storage space within the fridge, food has been stored in front of the cooling units, you've set the thermostat too high. Don't deal with this problem yourself, but report it to your manager or supervisor straight away. You must also report faults in the door lock or seal. If your manager or supervisor can't fix the problem, then an engineer should be called. Dry food storage. Dry foods should be correctly stored in dry food stores, which are rooms or places in which low-risk foods can be safely stored at room temperature. A safe dry food store should be cool and well ventilated, have adequate lighting to allow proper cleaning and for the food's appearance to be checked. Food racks should be assembled clear of the floor. Food should never be placed on it, and the food itself should be sealed in pest-proof tubs. Make sure that loose pieces of discarded packaging are not left littering the dry store space. Storing fruit and vegetables. Fruit and vegetables should be stored away from other types of food. They also need to be examined regularly for signs of mold. For example, oranges or cauliflowers are particularly prone to rapid tainting in this way. Any vegetables with soil still attached, for example, fruit vegetables, lettuces or cabbages, should be stored below other fruit and vegetables. Potatoes should be stored in the dark to prevent sprouting or encouraging the green areas of the surface, which produce solanine, a toxin, to develop. Food distribution and deliveries. Delivery vehicles have to meet high standards, which include the use of insulated or refrigerated vehicles for high-risk foods to ensure that microbiological contamination is controlled. This even includes vehicles used for short journeys. Having thermometers installed in all vehicles to show that food is stored in suitable conditions en route. Never loading warm food onto vehicles designed for chilled or frozen food. Having all vehicles pre-cooled before food is loaded into them. Only opening doors for the shortest length of time possible. Switching refrigerators off when the doors are open to prevent the cooling units from icing up. Making sure that all delivery vehicles are regularly and thoroughly cleaned. Ensuring the complete separation of high and low-risk foods when they are being transported together. High-risk chilled food must be delivered while stored at 5 degrees Celsius or less. Frozen food must be delivered while being stored at -18 degrees Celsius. Any chilled food that is delivered while at a temperature of 8 degrees Celsius or above should be disposed of. Any frozen food delivered at a temperature of above 12 degrees Celsius should also be disposed of. To ensure the above standards are rigorously adhered to, all food being delivered should be tested on the spot and placed in new storage meeting the above requirements within 20 minutes of being unloaded. Inspections of frozen food being delivered should include the checking of its freshness, temperature, color, smell, labeling, packaging, freedom from pest infestation. Records must be kept of all deliveries and their contents so that they remain traceable after any outbreak of food poisoning or customer complaints. All outer packaging should be disposed of before food is brought into any food preparation areas. Food labeling and storage. EU legislation, which is likely to remain mostly relevant to the UK, requires specific information to be clearly displayed on all pre-packed foods. The Food Information Regulations 2014, FIR, European Food Information to Consumers Regulation number 1169/2011, governs this and states that labels must show the name and contact details of the manufacturer, the name and brand of the product, the product's weight, a list of ingredients listed in descending order of weight, cooking or heating instructions, storage instructions, a used by or best before date to indicate its shelf life, its place of origin and manufacture, nutritional information, the presence of any allergens. Further legislation governing labeling and packaging also includes the General Food Regulations, EC 178/2002, which highlights the requirement for accurate food labeling to help businesses trace the source of unfit food and withdraw it. This legislation states that businesses have to not present, label, or advertise any food products in a misleading way, not sell food that is unfit for human consumption or which is otherwise unsafe, recall or withdraw unsafe food from the sale, even if some has already been sold to customers, identify whether ingredients of their food, the animal products it contains, and the food itself all come from originally. Use by and best before dates. Use by dates. A use by date is not the same as a best before date, and it is crucial to know the difference. Use by dates are usually found on refrigerated high-risk foods and indicate the date, and sometimes the time, up to which the product is safe to eat. It is against the law to sell, use, distribute, or display food that is past its use by date, and these foods must be checked daily to ensure that they are still safe to eat and within date. Best before dates. Best before dates are much more to do with food quality than food safety and indicate the length of time at which the food is likely to be at its best. Apart from eggs, the majority of types of food can continue to be sold beyond their best before date, but the date is a way of letting the customer or consumer know that the food will not be at its best. Instructions such as display until or sell by are sometimes present on the packaging and are instructions to the shop's employees, not the customers. Summary. In this module, we have looked at how food spoilage is one of the biggest causes of both food wastage and food poisoning in the UK. We learned that the major causes of food spoilage are bacteria, viruses, yeasts, molds, and parasites, and that there are various tried and tested legal ways of preventing or limiting their spread. We also learned how to recognize spoiled food through our senses and how organoleptic checks using our senses are employed by professional testers in the food industry to maintain standards. We also saw how to store foods using the methods of freezing and drying and how to best to go about these and maintain legal and safe standards. Lastly, we saw how food labeling can help keep food safe and what the differences are between use by and best before dates.